The bright blue holographic display flickered in the dimly lit command center as Commander Alan Wright rubbed his tired eyes. His uniform, once crisp and proper, now showed wrinkles from the 18-hour shift he had been working. The Earth Defense Fleet didn't usually receive strange transmissions from unknown regions of space, but today was different. "Commander, we're receiving it again," said Lieutenant Susan Miller. Her fingers moved quickly across her console as she tried to clean up the signal. "The translation matrix is working, but some parts still don't make sense." Alan walked over to her station and leaned down. "Play it again." The speakers crackled before a strange, almost musical voice filled them. "Faroum, we are the Vorn Collective. We seek peaceful exchange with human representatives. Meet at coordinates in Tau Ceti system. Come unarmed for trust." The message repeated 3 more times before cutting off. "What do you think, Lieutenant?" "Alan Tawadis?" asked, crossing his arms. Susan frowned, tucking a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. "Something feels off about the language patterns. See here?" She pointed to a waveform on her screen. "These segments don't match normal speech patterns. It's like they're hiding something in the way they speak." Alan nodded slowly. "Send this up to Admiral Harris. I'll recommend we send a diplomatic team, but with proper protection." 3 days later, Alan found himself in the main briefing room of Earth Central Command. The room was filled with fleet officers and diplomatic corps members, all talking in low voices until Admiral George Harris entered. Everyone stood at attention. "At ease," the Admiral said, his deep voice carrying authority earned through 30 years of service. "We've analyzed the Vorn transmission and have decided to respond. Ambassador Kate Rogers will lead the diplomatic mission aboard the Artemis." Kate stood up. She was in her early 50s with graying red hair and the calm demeanor of someone who had negotiated with difficult people her entire career. "Thank you, Admiral. My team is prepared for peaceful contact, but we understand the need for caution." "Commander Wright," Admiral Harris continued, "you recommended this mission. I'm assigning you as military liaison to the diplomatic team." Alan nodded, feeling both pride and anxiety. First contact situations were unpredictable, and he felt responsible for everyone who would be on this mission. 2 weeks later, the Artemis and 3 escort vessels approached the Tau Ceti system. The ships were sleek and silver, representing the best of human technology. Inside the Artemis, Alan watched the stars streak by from the observation deck. "Nervous?" asked a voice behind him. Alan turned to see Susan. She had been assigned as the communications specialist for the mission, given her expertise in xenolinguistics. "Cautiously optimistic," he replied with a small smile. "You were right about those odd speech patterns. Did you ever figure out what was causing them?" Susan shook her head. "No, it could be nothing. Maybe just how their language works. Or it could be." She didn't finish the thought. "We'll be careful," Alan assured her, though he felt uneasy. The small fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Tau Ceti system. Ahead of them, a massive ship waited. It looked like nothing they had seen before, organic and metallic at the same time, with strange growths that might have been weapons or sensors or something else entirely. "They're hailing us," Susan reported from her station on the bridge. Ambassador Rogers straightened her formal uniform. On screen. The view screen filled with the image of an alien. It had bluish skin that seemed to shimmer like oil on water. Its eyes were large and completely black, set in a face that had no nose, only breathing slits. When it spoke, its mouth moved in strange ways. "Greetings, humans. We are pleased you have come. Please dock with our vessel for talks." Kate smiled diplomatically. "Thank you for your invitation. We would be honored to meet, but perhaps we could begin with a smaller exchange. Maybe a few representatives from each side could meet on a shuttle." The alien was silent for a moment too long. "Yes, this is acceptable. Send your shuttle. No weapons." An hour later, Kate Rogers, Alan, Susan, and 2 security officers prepared to board a shuttle. Before they left, Alan pulled Susan aside. "I want you to stay behind," he said quietly. "What? Why?" she asked, surprised. "Just a feeling. If something goes wrong, someone needs to analyze what happened. You're the best at understanding them." Susan looked like she wanted to argue, but finally nodded. "Be careful." The shuttle approached. The massive alien ship. Alan felt his heart beating faster as they got closer. The ship seemed even larger up close, with strange patterns etched into its hull. "We're receiving docking instructions," said one of the pilots. As they approached the docking area, Alan noticed something odd. There were no lights welcoming them, no visible docking bay, just a dark opening that reminded him of a mouth. "Ambassador," he said quietly, "I think we should—" A bright purple beam shot out from the alien ship, hitting one of their escort vessels. The ship exploded instantly. "It's a trap," Alan shouted. "Turn us around." The shuttle pilots tried to reverse course, but another beam caught them, freezing the shuttle in place. Through the windows, Alan could see more beams striking their other escort ships. "Artemis, we're under attack," he shouted into his communicator. "Get out of here. Warn Earth." On the Artemis, Susan watched in horror as the alien ship attacked. "Emergency jump, now," she ordered. The Artemis's engines powered up, but before they could escape, energy tendrils reached out from the alien vessel, wrapping around the ship. "Send the emergency signal," Susan shouted as systems began to fail around her. The distress beacon launched, speeding away faster than any ship could travel, carrying one simple message. First contact hostile. Diplomats captured. Escorts destroyed. Back on Earth, Admiral Harris received the signal. His face grew grim as he listened to the brief message. He closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them with new resolve. He pressed a button on his secure terminal. "This is Admiral Harris. Authentication code Sierra 97 Alpha Titan. Initiate the Titan's protocol. I repeat, initiate the Titan's protocol." Deep beneath the surface of Mars, in a facility unknown to the public, 12 massive chambers began to hum with power. For the first time in 50 years, humanity had been called to war. And now something was answering. Dr. Elizabeth Brown hurried through the underground corridors of the Mars facility, her footsteps echoing against the metal floors. Red emergency lights flashed along the walls, and an alarm sounded in a steady, low pulse. She had been waiting for this call for 20 years, hoping it would never come. The security checkpoints opened automatically as she approached. Her heart raced as she entered the main control room, where a team of technicians worked furiously at their stations. "Status report," she demanded, brushing her short brown hair out of her eyes. "Titan's protocol activated by Admiral Harris 8 minutes ago," replied Chief Engineer Paul Evans. "Power-up sequence for all 12 chambers is at 30%. No complications yet." Elizabeth nodded and moved to the central console. She placed her palm on the scanner, and a larger display lit up, showing 12 human-shaped figures in separate chambers. Vital signs appeared next to each one, all stable but in deep stasis. "Begin revival sequence for Chamber 1, she ordered. Few technicians looked at each other nervously before Paul spoke up. "Dr. Brown, protocol suggests we should wait for the Defense Council to arrive." "We don't have time," Elizabeth said firmly. "The message said our diplomats were captured. Every minute counts." She entered her authorization code. "Start with John Winters. He's the tactical specialist. We'll need him first." 50 meters away, in a circular room filled with mist, a large cylindrical chamber began to glow. Inside, floating in a clear solution, was a man who appeared to be in his mid-30s. His eyes were closed and tubes connected to his body at various points. As the revival sequence initiated, the fluid began to drain. Back on Earth, Admiral Harris stood before the Planetary Defense Council. The room was silent after he finished explaining the situation. "You activated the Titan's protocol without consulting us first," said Counselor Ryan Baker, his voice cold. "There was no time," Harris replied. "The attack was swift and organized. If the Vorn discover Earth's location from our captured people, we need to be ready." "The Titans were never meant to be used," exclaimed Counselor Linda West. "They were a deterrent, a last resort. We don't even know if they still function after 50 years in stasis." "Dr. Brown assures me they're reviving now," Harris said. "And we created them for exactly this scenario. an advanced alien threat we couldn't match with conventional forces. The chamber doors opened, and a young officer rushed in, handing a tablet to the Admiral. Harris read it quickly, his expression turning grim. "The Vorn have sent another message," he announced. "They're demanding our unconditional surrender and the coordinates to Earth. They claim to have already extracted some information from the captured diplomats." The council room erupted in worried voices until Harris raised his hand. "There's more. Our long-range scanners have detected a fleet of Vorn ships moving toward the outer colonies. They'll reach New Mars within 3 days." On Mars, Elizabeth watched as the first chamber opened completely. The tubes disconnected automatically from John Winter's body, and he took his first conscious breath in 50 years. His eyes opened, immediately, alert, focused, and ice blue. He sat up smoothly, showing none of the disorientation that should come with long-term stasis. "Dr. Brown," he said, his voice slightly rough from disuse. "Is it time?" Elizabeth nodded, trying to hide her amazement at how quickly he had oriented himself. "Yes, John. Humanity needs the Titans now." John stepped out of the chamber, his movements fluid and precise. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, his body perfectly proportioned and muscled. He accepted the black uniform a technician offered him, and dressed quickly. "The others?" he asked, looking at the remaining chambers. "Being revived now," Elizabeth replied as alarms continued to sound throughout the facility. "John, the situation is critical. An alien species called the Vorn has attacked our diplomatic mission and captured our people. They're demanding Earth's surrender." John's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes hardened. "Show me everything you know about them." Within an hour, 5 more Titans had awakened. Lisa Young, the intelligence Titan, sat at a computer terminal absorbing information. At an impossible rate, her fingers moved faster than human eyes could track, and multiple screens displayed data that changed every few seconds. Henry Butler, the Strength Titan, tested his body in a reinforced exercise room, lifting weights that would have crushed ordinary humans. Patricia Taylor, the Speed Titan, ran laps around the facility's track, her form blurring as she pushed herself faster. William Carter, the Strategy Titan, studied 3-dimensional maps of known space with John Winters, discussing possible approaches to Vorn territory. Mary Nelson, the Stealth Titan, had already disappeared twice during her initial briefing, demonstrating her ability to become virtually undetectable. Admiral Harris arrived at the Mars facility as the last Titans were awakening. He entered the main conference room where the first 6 Titans waited, each sitting perfectly still and attentive. "I am Admiral George Harris," he introduced himself. "On behalf of Earth and all human colonies, I welcome you back to the world of the conscious." "What are our orders, Admiral?" John asked directly. Harris looked at these superhuman warriors created from volunteer soldiers who had undergone extreme genetic modifications and enhancement procedures before entering stasis. They were humanity's ultimate weapon, and now, its greatest hope. "We need you to rescue our captured diplomats and determine the extent of the Vorn threat," Harris said, "and if necessary, to show them why attacking humanity was their greatest mistake." "Do we have a ship?" William asked, already thinking of logistics. Harris nodded. "The Valkyrie. It was built specifically for you, with systems designed to interface with your enhanced abilities. It's been waiting as long as you have." In Earth orbit, the experimental warship Valkyrie powered up for the first time. Unlike other human vessels, its lines were sleek and predatory. Its weapon systems were generations ahead of the current fleet, kept secret from the public and most of the military. 3 days later, all 12 Titans boarded the Valkyrie. Each had undergone medical evaluations and combat readiness tests, performing beyond even the optimistic projections of their creators. As the ship prepared to depart, Elizabeth Brown stood in the launch control center watching the Titans through the communication feed. These were not just soldiers or weapons. They were people who had sacrificed normal lives for this moment. "Be careful," she said softly, "and come back." John Winters, now in full combat armor at the command station of the Valkyrie, nodded once to the camera. "We were made for this, Doctor. Now watch what humanity can really do. The Valkyrie's engines ignited, glowing with blue-white energy as the ship accelerated away from Earth, faster than any vessel humans had built before. On board, 12 perfect warriors prepared for a war no one had expected, but that they had been created to win. The Vorn had called. Now the Titans would answer. News of the Titans spread quickly through human space. Video footage of their rescue mission, carefully edited to protect tactical secrets, played on screens in homes and public squares across Earth and the colonies. Children stared in awe at the superhuman feats while military recruiters reported record numbers of applicants. Ambassador Kate Rogers addressed the United Planetary Council from her hospital bed, still recovering from her ordeal. Her face showed fresh scars, but her voice remained strong. The Vorn believed we were weak, she said. They expected us to surrender when faced with superior technology. They did not understand humanity. In a secure briefing room on Mars, Admiral Harris met with the Titan team. The 12 enhanced humans sat around a large table reviewing data from their encounter. The Vorn are mobilizing for a full-scale attack, Lisa reported, her mind still connected to the intercepted alien communications. They're targeting our outer colonies first, particularly New Mars. They expect it to fall within days. They'll be surprised, John said. The planetary defense grid is already online and we've evacuated all non-essential personnel. Admiral Harris nodded. What concerns me is their reaction. We hurt their pride, but they're doubling down instead of reconsidering, almost like they have something to prove. Henry Butler, who had been examining a piece of Vorn technology they had captured, looked up. This equipment has been modified. Some of these components don't match the rest of their tech. It's more advanced. Lisa's eyes widened slightly. I noticed something similar in their communications. Certain commands seemed to follow a different syntax pattern, like they were added later, or by someone else. A holographic display activated in the center of the table, showing the New Mars colony. The blue-green planet rotated slowly, red markers indicating defense positions. The colony has 3,000 military personnel and 15,000 civilians, William said. Our simulations show the Vorn fleet could overwhelm the defenses if they commit fully. Then we need to be there, John decided. The Valkyrie can reach New Mars before the Vorn main fleet arrives. On the other side of the galaxy, the Azari High Council watched recordings of the human-Vorn encounter with great interest. The Azari were tall, slender beings with pale lavender skin and large, thoughtful eyes. Their civilization was ancient and peaceful, preferring observation to intervention. These humans are younger than we thought, said Elder Mira, her translucent fingers manipulating the display to replay the moment Henry smashed through the Vorn ship's hull. Look at their protective instinct. The enhanced ones risked themselves to save their diplomats. Elder Thorne, the Council's military advisor, frowned. They are dangerous. Their titans could threaten many worlds. Or protect them, countered Mira. The Vorn have been expanding aggressively for decades. Perhaps we should open communication with these humans. As the Azari debated, humanity prepared for war. On Earth and the inner colonies, factories worked around the clock producing weapons and ships. Scientists who had worked on various parts of the Titan program, never knowing its full scope, came forward with new innovations based on their research. Dr. Elizabeth Brown stood in her lab on Mars, surrounded by holographic displays of DNA sequences and neural enhancements. She had worked for decades on the Titan program, but now faced a new challenge. We never designed them for extended combat, she told her team. Their bodies can withstand tremendous strain, but there are limits. We need to develop support systems. On New Mars, civilians rushed to evacuation ships as defense forces took position. Orbital platforms activated weapon systems that had never been tested in actual combat. Among the chaos, children played in temporary shelters, imitating the Titans. In their games, "I'm Henry," shouted a small boy lifting a plastic crate over his head. "I'm super strong." "Well, I'm Patricia," replied a girl with pigtails running in circles around him. "I'm faster than anyone." Their parents watched with sad smiles, hoping the real Titans would arrive in time. The Valkyrie approached New Mars, pushing its advanced engines beyond recommended limits. On the bridge, John watched the tactical display tracking the incoming Vorn fleet. 50 ships, far more than they had faced before. "They're serious this time," William noted. "This isn't just about capturing technology anymore. They want to make an example of us." Henry, examining more of the captured Vorn technology, suddenly stopped. "John, Lisa, look at this." He pointed to a small symbol etched into a component. It showed a spiral pattern unlike anything in Vorn design. Lisa touched the symbol, closing her eyes. "I've seen this before, in the communication protocols. It's like a signature." "From who?" John asked. "I don't know yet," Lisa replied. "But it's not Vorn. Someone else is involved in this conflict." As the Vorn fleet entered the new Mars system, planetary defenses activated. Massive energy cannons fired from the surface, destroying 3 alien ships immediately. The rest adjusted their approach, spreading out to minimize losses. The colony's small defensive fleet moved to intercept, knowing they were outnumbered but determined to buy time for the final evacuations. Their ships were older models, lacking the advanced technology of the Valkyrie, but their pilots flew with desperate courage. From the nearby asteroid belt, the Valkyrie watched, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. John studied the Vorn formation, looking for weaknesses. "Their flagship is staying back," he noted. "They learned from last time." Patricia, ready in her assault pod, smiled. "They still haven't learned enough." The attack began with precision. The Valkyrie targeted the edges of the Vorn formation, destroying 5 ships before they could respond. The colony's defenders rallied, focusing their fire on the same area, creating a gap in the enemy line. "Now," John ordered, "deploy all Titans." 6 assault pods launched from the Valkyrie, each carrying 2 Titans. The small vessels accelerated toward different Vorn ships, their advanced stealth systems making them nearly invisible until the last moment. Henry and Mary targeted the largest support vessel. Their pods smashed through the hull, creating an entry point. Inside, they moved with practiced coordination, Henry drawing attention with direct assaults while Mary struck from the shadows. Patricia and another Titan named Daniel Johnson, the adaptation specialist, boarded a Vorn weapons platform. Daniel's unique ability to quickly understand and operate alien technology let him turn the Vorn's weapons against their own ships. On the colony below, civilians watched from shelters as explosions lit up the sky. Among them, a nurse named Nancy. Clark tended to injured Defense Force members. "Look," one soldier said, pointing to a view screen. "The Titans are here." The battle turned rapidly. The Vorn, expecting to face only the colony's defenses, found themselves attacked from within their own fleet. Ships began to explode or drift powerless as Titans disabled their systems. The Vorn flagship, seeing the tide turn, launched a desperate attack directly at the planet. 3 massive ships broke from the main fleet, accelerating toward the surface. "They're going to hit the main colony," William warned. John redirected the Valkyrie to intercept, pushing the ship's weapons to their limits. 2 Vorn vessels exploded, but the third continued its descent, too close now to destroy safely over the populated area. "I need a solution," John demanded, his voice still calm despite the crisis. Lisa, her mind connected to both the ship and the colony's systems, found one. "There's an unpopulated valley 60 miles from the colony. If we can force them to crash there..." The Valkyrie fired precisely, hitting the Vorn ship's engines rather than trying to destroy it completely. The massive alien vessel veered off course, still falling but now heading toward the empty valley. As the dust settled hours later, humanity had won its first major battle against the Vorn, but among the captured technology and intercepted communications, the Titans found more evidence of the mysterious third party, the one who might have pushed the Vorn to attack in the first place. The galaxy was noticing humanity now, and not everyone was happy about it. 6 months after the first Vorn attack, the galaxy had changed. What began as a simple diplomatic mission had evolved into a conflict that drew the attention of a dozen major civilizations. Earth, once considered an unremarkable newcomer to interstellar politics, now stood as a respected power. The Valkyrie docked at the newly built Galactic Embassy Station. The massive ring-shaped structure orbited a neutral star system, chosen as a meeting place for the 12 species now involved in addressing what had become known as the Harbinger Crisis. John Winters walked through the station's main concourse, noting the various alien representatives watching him. Some looked curious, others fearful. The Titans had become symbols across known space, of either hope or terror depending on one's perspective. Lisa Young joined him, her steps light despite the gravity. "The Vorn delegation has arrived," she said quietly. "Their fleet is staying, at the outer marker as agreed." "And our other guests?" John asked. "The Azari are already in the council chamber. The others are arriving now." Inside the Grand Council chamber, representatives from 12 species gathered around a circular table. Some were familiar allies, others ancient rivals, all brought together by the shared threat. In the center of the room stood Ambassador Kate Rogers, recovered from her captivity, and now speaking for humanity. "For too long, the Harbingers have manipulated us all," Kate said, her voice firm. "They pushed the Vorn to attack us, just as they incited conflicts between the Azari and the Brel a century ago, and between the Tal and the Voroks before that." The Vorn representative, a high-ranking commander named Shal, looked uncomfortable. His blue skin had paled slightly since entering the room. "We were deceived," he admitted reluctantly. "The beings you call Harbingers approached us 50 years ago, offering advanced technology in exchange for our service. They told us humans were dangerous expansionists who would threaten us all. They told us the same about the Brel," said Elder Mira of the Azari. "It seems their strategy never changes. Find an aggressive species, enhance their technology, and point them at a potential rival." Dr. Elizabeth Brown entered the chamber, followed by several other human scientists. After months of studying the mysterious technology found embedded in Vorn ships, they had made a breakthrough. "The Harbingers aren't just manipulating us politically," Elizabeth explained, activating a holographic display. "Their technology contains components that affect neural patterns, subtle influences that increase aggression and paranoia. The Vorn weren't just given weapons, they were being controlled." On the viewing screens around the chamber, images showed the recent Titan-led mission that had finally located the Harbinger base, a massive structure hidden in the darkness between galaxies. The facility had been abandoned by the time they arrived, but left behind was evidence of a civilization that had been manipulating younger species for thousands of years. "They're still out there," John said, addressing the gathered representatives, "and they'll try again with another species if we don't stand together." As the council debated next steps, Henry Butler stood guard outside a special area of the station. Inside, children from Earth, the Vorn homeworld, and 5 other planets played together under the watchful eyes of caretakers. It had been Kate Rogers' idea, a place where the youngest members of each species could meet without the prejudices of their elders. A small Vorn child approached Henry cautiously, looking up at his towering form. "Are you really as strong as 10 Vorn warriors?" the child asked in carefully practiced human language. Henry smiled, kneeling down to be closer to eye level. "Perhaps, but strength isn't what makes humans special." "What does?" the child asked. "We never stop trying to be better," Henry answered. Back in the council chamber, the alliance was becoming official. 12 species, including the now humbled Vorn, agreed to share information about Harbinger activities and work together to track them down. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Harris approached John and the other Titans. "You've done more than we ever expected," he said. "The Titan project was meant to be our last resort, our final defenders. Instead, you've become our ambassadors to the stars." Lisa, who had been analyzing data from the abandoned Harbinger base, looked thoughtful. "The Harbingers wanted to keep us divided and fighting each other. They fear what we might become if we work together." That evening, Dr. Brown met with the Titans privately. The 12 enhanced humans gathered in a quiet room overlooking the vast sweep of stars. "There's something you should all know," Elizabeth said. "The Titan project was never just about creating super soldiers. That was part of it, yes, but the real goal was more ambitious. She activated a display showing human DNA alongside various simulations. You were proof of concept, evidence that humans could be more than we are. The genetic enhancements, the neural modifications, they were designed to be refined and eventually used to help all humanity. You mean create more Titans? Patricia asked. Elizabeth shook her head. Not weapons, healers. The research from your enhancements has already led to treatments for genetic diseases. The neural interfaces Lisa uses could help people with brain injuries communicate again. What made you formidable in war can save lives in peace. John looked out at the stars. So we were never meant to just fight battles. No, Elizabeth said, softly. You were meant to show us what humanity could become. 3 days later, the Valkyrie prepared to return to Earth. The diplomatic mission had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. The Vorn had requested formal peace negotiations, and the Azari had offered technological exchange programs. On the observation deck, John stood with Lisa, watching the busy activity of ships coming and going from the station. They called us, John said thoughtfully. The Vorn's first transmission. They had no idea what they were unleashing. Lisa smiled. Not just 12 enhanced humans. They unleashed the real power of humanity, our ability to adapt, to overcome, to turn enemies into allies. Below them, in the station's main promenade, human children played with young Vorn, Azari, and others. The first generation that might grow up without the manipulated conflicts of the past. A young human girl looked up at the observation window and waved when she spotted the 2 Titans. John waved back, realizing that this, not the battles won or enemies defeated, was the true victory. The galaxy had called humanity to war, expecting to find an easy conquest or a bitter enemy. Instead, they found something far more powerful, AI, species that could fight when necessary but preferred to build, to connect, to turn the darkness between stars into bridges rather than battlefields. The Titans had led the way, but all of humanity would follow, not as conquerors, but as creators of a future where different worlds could find common ground. The Harbingers had wanted division and conflict. They got unity instead, and that was humanity's greatest strength of all. The Valkyrie moved through space silently, its advanced stealth systems making it nearly invisible to sensors. On the bridge, John Winters stood looking at the tactical display showing the Vorn fleet in orbit around a small moon. 5 large ships surrounded a central vessel nearly twice their size. That's where they're holding the diplomats, John said, pointing to the central ship. Lisa confirmed it from their communications. Lisa Young sat cross-legged on the floor, her eyes closed, with a small device attached to her temple. Her mind was connected directly to the ship's systems, allowing her to intercept and decode Vorn transmissions. They're overconfident, she said without opening her eyes. They keep talking about humans as if we're barely worth their attention. They've already started studying our technology from the captured ships. William Carter nodded, his calculating eyes never leaving the display. Good. Let them be overconfident. We'll use their arrogance against them. Patricia Taylor, the Speed Titan, smiled. She was the smallest of the Titans, but her compact frame contained muscles and reflexes enhanced, far beyond human limits. How long until we move in? 4 hours, William answered. We need to wait until their patrol pattern creates a blind spot we can exploit. Mary Nelson walked into the bridge area, seemingly appearing from nowhere. The stealth Titan had been exploring the ship, testing its layout. The shuttle is ready. I can get aboard their mothership undetected. Henry Butler stood up from his seat, towering over the others. The Strength Titan's massive frame made even the specially designed chair look small. And I'll be ready when... It's time to make noise, he said, his deep voice rumbling. The next 4 hours passed with precise preparation. Each Titan moved with purpose, checking weapons and equipment. Unlike ordinary soldiers, they showed no nervousness, no last-minute doubts. They had been created for this moment. As the Vorn fleet moved into the predicted pattern, the Valkyrie silently approached from the shadow of the moon. A small stealth shuttle detached from the ship, carrying Mary Nelson toward the Vorn mothership. Beginning Phase 1, John's voice said through their secure communication link. Inside the shuttle, Mary activated her stealth suit. The material shimmered briefly before adapting to match her surroundings perfectly. Her vital signs slowed as she entered a meditative state that would make her nearly undetectable. The shuttle approached a maintenance hatch on the underside of the massive Vorn ship. Using data Lisa had extracted from Vorn communications, Mary quickly bypassed the security systems and slipped inside. "I'm in," she whispered, her voice barely audible even through the enhanced comm system. Back on the Valkyrie, Lisa's eyes snapped. "Open." "I've located Ambassador Rogers and the others. Level 4, Section 12. 23 human life signs detected. 4 appear to be in medical distress. Mary, proceed to the location," John ordered. "William, begin Phase 2. The Valkyrie suddenly powered up all systems. Its engines flared brilliantly as it accelerated directly toward the smallest Vorn patrol ship. Weapons that no human vessel had ever revealed before locked onto targets. "Let's get their attention," John said calmly. The Valkyrie fired, and the patrol ship exploded instantly. The other Vorn vessels immediately began to move, their weapons powering up as alarms sounded throughout their fleet. Inside the Vorn mothership, Mary moved like a ghost through the corridors. Alien crew members rushed past her, unaware of her presence as she slipped deeper into the ship. She reached a heavily guarded door where 2 large Vorn stood with energy weapons. "I need a distraction," she whispered into her comm. Outside, the Valkyrie danced between enemy fire, its maneuverability surprising the Vorn. Another patrol ship exploded as John targeted its engine core with surgical precision. The Vorn mothership shuddered as it began to move into a defensive position. The guards at the door received orders through their communication devices and left their post to respond to the emergency. Mary slipped through the door as it opened automatically for the departing guards. Inside, she found the human diplomats in cell-like compartments. Ambassador Kate Rogers looked up, her face showing signs of rough treatment but her eyes still defiant. "Who are you?" Kate asked, seeing only a shimmer in the air as Mary deactivated. "Part of her stealth field." "Humanity's response," Mary replied simply as she began unlocking the cells. "Can everyone walk?" Kate nodded. "Except for 2 of our security team. They were hurt badly during interrogation." Outside, the battle intensified. The Valkyrie had destroyed 3 patrol ships, but the remaining vessels had adjusted their tactics. Energy beams narrowly missed the human ship as it weaved between attacks. "Shuttle 2, launch now," John ordered. A second, larger shuttle left the Valkyrie carrying Henry Butler and Patricia Taylor. While the Valkyrie continued to draw the main fleet's attention, the shuttle approached the mothership from a different angle. "We're at the entry point," Patricia reported. "Henry's ready." Inside the Vorn mothership, alarms blared as Mary led the freed diplomats through back corridors toward their extraction point. She moved quickly but carefully, keeping the injured supported by stronger members of the group. "Lisa, we need a clear path to Junction 14, Mary said into her comm. "Working on it," Lisa replied. Her mind connected to the Vorn systems, manipulating their internal sensors and security protocols. "Turn left at the next intersection. I've sealed the doors behind you." Suddenly, a squad of Vorn soldiers appeared ahead of them. Their blue skin glistened under the emergency lights as they raised their weapons. "Down!" Mary ordered, pushing the diplomats aside as energy blasts filled the corridor. At that moment, the ship shook violently. A massive hole appeared in the wall nearby as Henry Butler smashed through multiple layers of the ship's hull, creating his own entrance. Behind him, Patricia Taylor moved in a blur, disarming 3 Vorn soldiers before they could react. Henry charged into the remaining soldiers, his enhanced strength sending them flying against walls. One Vorn aimed a weapon at his back, but Mary appeared behind the alien, disabling him with a precise strike. "This way," Patricia called to the diplomats, pointing toward the shuttle docked at Henry's improvised entrance. "Quickly." As they moved the diplomats to the shuttle, John's voice came through their comms. "We have a problem. They're calling for reinforcements. A second Vorn fleet is approaching through faster-than-light travel." "How long do we have?" William asked. 10 minutes at most," Lisa answered. And they've locked weapons on our position. The last diplomat boarded the shuttle as Henry secured the injured. Mary and Patricia took defensive positions, holding off Vorn soldiers who had discovered their location. We're ready for extraction, Henry reported. All diplomats secured. The Valkyrie moved closer to the mothership, drawing heavy fire as it created a distraction for the shuttle's escape. John's hands moved over the controls with precision, evading most attacks while absorbing others with the ship's advanced shields. As the shuttle detached from the mothership, carrying the rescued humans and 3 Titans, William looked at John. We could leave now. John shook his head. They need to understand who they're dealing with. Lisa, send the message. Throughout the Vorn fleet, communication systems suddenly activated. Lisa's voice, translated perfectly into the Vorn language, echoed through every ship. You sought to test humanity's strength. Now you shall witness it fully unleashed. The Valkyrie's weapons targeted the mothership's engines as the shuttle reached safe distance. The massive alien vessel began to list to one side, its power systems failing under the precise assault. Second Vorn fleet arriving in 3 minutes, Lisa reported. That's enough time, John said, setting course to rendezvous with the shuttle. They've seen what just 12 humans can do. Imagine what they'll face if they follow us home. As the Andi, Valkyrie and the shuttle moved away at maximum speed, the disabled Vorn mothership drifted helplessly, a clear message to those who would threaten humanity. We are not to be underestimated. The Titans had made their first move in a game that would change the galaxy forever.